Welcome to another CHRO Conversation, hosted by the Center for Executive Succession at the Darla Moore School of Business. I'm your host, Anthony Nyberg, and today we are speaking with Tim Hourigan. As Executive Vice President for Human Resources for Home Depot, Tim oversees more than 400,000 employees. Hey, Tim, thank you very much for joining us today. It has really been a treat to have you in town, and we appreciate you being here with our students. Thank you.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I really had breakfast this morning with a group. Tremendous amount of energy with those guys. It was good stuff.
I actually suspect everywhere you go that people around you have a lot of energy, so that may be more of a reflective issue than just the people.
I appreciate it. Very kind. Thank you.
So you've had a really diverse and interesting background. Just even how you got into HR. Right? So you really started you had an accountant background.
Exactly.
Can you say a little bit about how you made that leap into the HR area?
Yeah. Well, originally trained as a CPA, and when I moved into corporate world, it was in a financial analytical role. And I was working for a company that had holdings in a number of retailers. And as we were going through some divestiture work, working closely with the HR lead, got really intrigued by how does the people component fit in. So I felt I had a pretty good foundation in the financial side, but frankly was pretty ignorant on most of the people-related issues. And that evolved into a conversation, which then evolved into my opportunity to move into his organization as an HR lead.
So can you say a little bit about how having that background has maybe helped inform or help you in your career?
I talk about the language of business. I think the language of business is finance. You have to understand the financial equation. And as an HR professional, you have to be able to understand how the HR initiatives impact the business. So when I get involved in conversations, the very first thing is understanding what the business partner's issues are. Discussing how does the financial aspects of a decision impact the business. And then people are such a critical component of any business model. Then how do I bring the financial understanding to what we're doing from an HR standpoint to help support those initiatives?
Can you say even more about that? Because you gave a really great, I thought, when we were talking about it before, you were talking about how if you went to Italy and you spoke German and really making that translation. So can you say a little more about what it means to translate HR to business speak and vice versa?
Sure. I think one of the big challenges for HR folks is we're very steeped in our discipline. So we understand all the HR vernacular, and the analogy was we speak German, and we're really good at German, but we're working in Italy. And so if we try to speak German to the Italian business partners, they look quizzically, like, what are you talking about? I think first we have to understand the Italian language, and then we translate our German into Italian, which then resonates better with the business partner. Many times you see the HR team, and we're very well founded, good foundational pieces, but they don't connect with the business partner. And I would argue a lot of times it's because we're speaking German in Italy, for example, and they just don't understand.
So you were also president of a major division at Home Depot, and you talked a little bit about how that business experience and really getting, I presume that's really helped you at the CHRO level also. Has it gone the other way too? Did that HR background help you? Because you went from finance to HR and then basically back to finance or running a whole business. So does it work both ways?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing for me is understanding the people, and that aspect is such a critical component of the business model. In retail, it's definitely the associate connection with the customer. It's not a nice to do, it's a need to do. And being able to run a division, and our division had about 700 stores and somewhat over $20 billion in volume, big business. The people make it or break it. And yes, the merchandising is important, the operational disciplines are important, but it's all related to the people aspect of how do they execute against the plan. So being in that division role gave me a great appreciation for how important the HR component was. And I think I was able to share that with my colleagues in a way that resonated with them. And again, I learned Italian so that I could translate the German into something that would make sense.
So when you think about new HR people coming into the field, what are the things they need to do to really learn to be able to make that, to be good translators that way?
That's the very first thing is ask a lot of questions about the business. The phrase, seek to understand, then to be understood. Absolutely. Understand the business. Talk to your business partner. Understand how the business works. What are the key levers to make the business successful? What are impediments or obstacles that the business may be facing before you ever come forward with any HR solutions? A lot of times people will talk about, hey, we have this new assessment process. For example, let me talk about how we assess leaders, right? And we've got these competency-based models, and here's how we're going to do structured interviews, and and by that time, it's gone over the operator's head. They're saying, no, I just need the best store leader or the best unit leader. And you say, okay, let me explain in a different way, perhaps, that how I'm going to help you get that.
So what are some of the things you do when new people come into your group, into HR? How do you get them that kind of business acumen?
So a couple ways. First, I push that in our discussions. We very seldom will talk at a high level, an esoteric level about the HR initiatives. Yep, critical to do, but we do that in the appropriate forums. We talk about the business first and foremost. Every staff meeting starts with, where are we on the business? What are the key attributes? Where do we have successes? Where do we have challenges? For new folks, we embed them with a business partner and frankly push very hard for them to spend a disproportionate amount of time, particularly early on, understanding the business. Then the last thing, and probably the most impactful, is before you start working in our HR group, we'll put you in a store for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, where you're actually a sales associate. And you see firsthand what it feels like to be a sales associate, so that as you're deciding what tools to use, you're able to say, this resonates with me. Quick example, my very first day, I spent a month in the store when I joined the company as a VP in one of our operating divisions as a sales associate. So you put the orange apron on, hi, I'm Tim. And I went through all of our learning, walk into our electrical department. Customer comes up, older gentleman, walking with a walker. And he gets up and he reaches in his pocket and he goes, I need one of these. And I'm actually pretty handy. I've done renovations. I could wire a house. I could plumb a home. I look at this thing. I have no clue what it is. And so I look at him. I said, excuse me, what did you take this off of? And he looks up and he takes it out of my hand and he says, let me go find somebody who knows what they're talking about. And that was an immediate reaction to me to say, boy, our associates face that every day. So how do I best prepare them to be effective in that environment? Because it's daunting. In our stores, we have 35,000 items. We have 105,000 square feet. And to communicate with that customer in a convincing way, we've got to give them the right tools to do that.
And so you really, you get them all into the stores right away, which is amazing, because you said you did that when you came into the Home Depot as a VP,
right?
And you still went out there. And you still get HR back out there all the time, right? Is that what I'm understanding, that you get them in the stores all the time?
Yeah, we spend at least a day a week in the stores or in a distribution center or in a customer contact center, just to see what's going on and make sure we're connected.
So 20% of time of all your HR professionals are really out with customers, basically.
Yeah, I would say at a minimum. My field generalists, they would be at least 80% in stores or in the distribution center.
Wow. And I know you're still doing that even as the CHRO. You're out in the stores a lot.
Yeah. Well, we just passed Black Friday, so the Friday after Thanksgiving. We opened the store at 6 a.m. Was in the store ready to work at 5:30, and then you open the doors and customers flood in. You've got to be prepared. It's a little bit daunting, it's stepping that role, but it's fun, and it also keeps reinforcing what's important in your job. And how do you take care of those frontline associates?
So just make sure I got this right. 5:30 a.m. on Black Friday, you as the CHRO of Home Depot with 400,000 associates, you were in your orange vest out there greeting people and working in the store and helping sell?
Absolutely. When we go to the store, we all put an apron on. No matter where the store is, time of day, when you visit a store, you're in an apron. And frankly, customers are trained to look for the orange apron and say, hey, can you help me? And we're prepared to do that.
So are you better now at helping if someone shows you that little thing?
No, I'd still fall off on that one. But do try. The thing I learned is find the expert in the store. So when they pull that out, I know better now to say, okay, electrical, let me go get Ron, or let me go get Sandy, or whoever it happens to be.
So this really sounds like an amazing culture at Home Depot. How is this developed, and how do you protect it and keep it moving such that it really gets everybody engaged in it?
We're 40 years old this year. Our founders started with this culture. That was the foundational pieces. It's the greatest gift we've ever received. Each leader's job is to nurture and make sure that we don't do things that negatively impact the culture. So we go back to, we got two basic symbols, and every company has a view. of how they think about their mission or how they think about what makes them different. In Home Depot's context, it's our value wheel, which is our decision-making model, and it's our inverted pyramid, which is our leadership model. And we check each other. We make sure that we're reinforcing that message. When we see somebody that might deviate a bit, we make sure we come back and reground ourselves.
So can you say a little bit about both those? Let's start with the inverted pyramid. So what does that really mean at Home Depot? I mean, I think we all understand the servant leadership idea, but how does that embody itself at Home Depot?
Well, so what we think is each of our jobs is to support the levels that are higher in the hierarchy. So how do we remove obstacles? How do we truly ask questions and ask to learn as opposed to be directive? And yes, we have operational processes and we have activities that we say, checklists, et cetera, that you would expect. But in the way we treat our people, it's remembering that frontline associate is the most critical component of the business model. They will make or break our relationship with the customer. And everything you do as a leader has to reinforce that. You have to figure out, how do you remove the obstacles? How do you address things that make it easier for the levels above you in the hierarchy to do their jobs better?
And then the other one you talked about was the values wheel. Can you say a little bit what that means?
Yeah, we've got 8 core values, and frankly, some of them pull and tug at each other. So, for example, one of the core values is create shareholder value. Another is take care of your people, do the right thing is another, building strong relationships. You say, well, boy, I could do any one of those independently, but I have to do it all in concert. And so the value wheel concept is, yes, sometimes I do things that help drive shareholder value. I have to weigh that against how does it affect the customer, which is another one, drive excellent customer service. And I have to figure out, is this taking care of our people in the way that we want to do?
And so at the executive level, are you guys really thinking that way? Is that how, when you have tough decisions, are you thinking through that value wheel?
Yeah, I'll tell you that, as trite as it may sound, it's absolutely. So our chairman, and then there's 8 executive vice presidents. That conversation comes up more frequently than you would imagine. At least once a week we have some issue we're dealing with, and someone will talk about specifically, how does this fit with the values?
So as one of the 9 members, as you just described, of that executive leadership team, is your role as CHRO different than some of the others, and how would you describe it, if it is, or are you all?
Yeah, it is. I think it's yes and no. We're all members of the business team. So if there's an initiative in the supply chain world, for example, we all weigh in, we all have conversations, and it's an informed conversation as a business person. I think the thing that differentiates me, as well as the other colleagues, in my case, is I've got a toolkit of HR tools. The CFO, she may have a toolkit of financial tools. The store leader, she may have a toolkit referencing that. But all of us are business people first, and then functional experts second. My job, and the one that I keep in the forefront, is always make sure that you're representing the associate who's not in the room. I've got to be the associate advocate. Not that I'm solely the associate advocate, but I have to make sure that we're thinking of the impact on the associate as we go through whatever type of discussions and decisions we need to.
Do you spend much time is this your role, or is there any role at all, in terms of building the team of that executive leadership team? Besides, I'm sure you all meet regularly, probably weekly, in terms of the business, but do you do much to strengthen the team aspect of that?
Yeah, I think it's, as a head of HR, you're like the player coach. So you're on the team, but you also have to be observing how the team's playing together. We're very fortunate. I've been on senior teams that, frankly, isn't as cohesive as ours. I think it comes back to 2 things. One is it's a very trusting team. We trust each other. We think, we may disagree, and we may have aggressive conversations around the disagreement, but it's built on a foundation of trust and respect. And then the second thing, and particularly differentiating this team, is there's an air of humility. The egos don't get in the way. Hard to say, and I'm sure many folks will say, well, wait a minute, you've got senior executives and they've got to have strong egos, and that's true, but you don't allow that to get in the way. And you make sure that humility is kind of the first and foremost. It's not about me, it's about us. It's not about us, it's about the Home Depot.
How do you develop that? I mean, you're all super successful, extremely smart people who are now presumably quite wealthy. How do you
the smart
keep that?
piece, I'm not so sure about Anthony. But I do appreciate the comment.
Right. But how do you foster that humility?
Yeah, so we've gone through, I think, several metamorphoses as the organization, and we've seen when humility hasn't been first and foremost. So we check each other. If you see somebody getting a little bit out of line, that's back to the player-coach thing. Might have to have, hey, well, what were you thinking? Did you really mean the way that came out? But I'll be honest, it doesn't come up very often. It's a piece of the fabric. I think Bernie and Arthur, our two founders, Bernie Marcus and Arthur Blank, both had an air of humility about, hey, we're doing things to help associates gain wealth. We're doing things to help associates move to levels that, frankly, they didn't anticipate. And we're pushing them to fully realize their potential. And that started 40 years ago and continues today.
And the other part you mentioned was the trust. Do you do something proactive to develop that trust, or is that just the personalities that happen to be around at your executive level, executive team, or
Yeah.
is it something you can do proactively?
Yeah, well, first, I think you'll trust people more if you get to know them better. So we have 2 off-site meetings a year where we bring the team together for a couple or 3 days. We bring our spouses. We have a collegial aspect to those, as well as a business aspect to those. Every quarter, we also have a full-day off-site meeting, just the executive leadership team. And we talk about, it's a whiteboard type meeting, so there's no prep. And we talk about issues. And the more you get to know someone and the more you listen to how they're addressing things, the more I think trust gets built.
So that sounds like there are at least 6 times a year that you're getting together, really about building that trust and that team
Exactly.
and working together. Another aspect of Home Depot that I found really impressive is, I think you told me that something like 25 to 30% of your board are women right now, which is still probably, we've got room to go on
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
But that's much better than in many companies, and maybe a little surprising to some people, given the fact that one wouldn't necessarily think of Home Depot or home repair as a place we'd be more likely to draw a higher percentage of women on the board. Can you talk a little about, are you doing something intentionally to make that happen?
Oh, absolutely. So first of all, if you ratchet all the way back, purchasing decision, 85% of the purchasing decisions are made by women for the home. And depending, it may be a much higher level that's consulted for those types of decisions. We've been very fortunate to get some great board members, both male and female. And our female board members understand not only the business world, but they understand that connection with our customers and how our associates help affect that connection. So yes, been very intentional. When we look for board members, we look for people who do understand kind of the roll-up-your-sleeves, blue-collar activities that our business is involved with. Frankly, we've been very blessed to find some great folks along those lines.
And is there, how do you go about? Is this a recruiting effort in terms of identifying potential people to be on your board? And what do you do to be really proactive about making sure you get the representation that you're looking for, given that Home Depot sells to everyone?
Sure.
Sure.
Well, we've got a great network. So with our board members, we have a great network, including the folks that they know. So obviously, they're able to reference people that are similarly minded relative to the business. We use an external search firm, and they have a very clear spec on what we're looking for. So when you think about whether it's a female board member or a male board member, here's some of the things that we need. And cultural fit's very high on that agenda. And again, it goes back to a level of trust, a level of humility, a business expertise, and really a love for the home improvement retail space.
Do you do something with the board similar to what you do with the executive leadership team about getting them together in ways that are not just board meetings as a way to create more cohesion or trust? Or
So we have 5 scheduled board meetings a year, and then one of them is a more collegial event. So yes, the board meeting occurs, but we have an event where we have dinners, and we'll spend some time in a more relaxed environment.
thank you very much for coming down here. Thank you for sitting here with me right now.
Hey, thanks for
Sincerely
having me.
appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it, Anthony. Thanks. Great day. Beautiful day to be in Columbia. Thanks, man.
You just listened to another CHRO conversation. Today, Tim Hourigan of Home Depot shared his views regarding the intersection between business and HR objectives. As you also heard, Tim laid out strong arguments for why the new generation of HR professionals are the agents of change needed for driving business success. On behalf of all of us who are associated with the Master of Human Resources program and the Center for Executive Succession here at the University of South Carolina, thank you for joining us.